Hello, everyone. This is Father Colin, and it's time for Story Time with Father Colin. Today, we're going to read a story about courage and perseverance, the importance of keeping, doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's not always the most fun or the most exciting thing. And this little story, again, is going to be from my favorite book, the Children's Book of Virtues, edited by William J. Bennett. And this story is called The Little Hero of Holland, and it's adapted from Etta Blaisdell and Mary Frances Blaisdell. So The Little Hero of Holland. Holland is a country where much of the land lies below sea level. Only great walls called dikes keep the North Sea from rushing in and flooding the land. For centuries, the people of Holland have worked to keep the walls strong so that their country will be safe and dry. Even the little children know the dikes must be watched every moment, and that a hole no larger than your finger can be a very dangerous thing. Many years ago, there lived in Holland a boy named Peter. Peter's father was one of the men who tended the gates and the dikes called sluices. He opened and closed the sluices so that ships could pass out of Holland's canals into the great sea. So just here's some pictures here. There's Peter. Right there. That's Peter. So his dad, he's the main character, but his dad works on the sluices. One afternoon in the early fall, when Peter was 8, his mother called him from his play. "Come, Peter," she said. "I want you to go across the dike and take these cakes to your friend, the blind man. If you go quickly and do not stop to play, you will be home again before dark." The little boy was glad to go on such an errand and started off with a light heart. He stayed with the poor blind man a little while to tell him about his walk along the dike and about the sun and the flowers and the ships far out at sea. Then he remembered his mother's wish that he should return before dark, and bidding his friend goodbye, he set out for home. So there's Peter. There's Peter with his friend, the old blind man. And just so you see, here's a picture of the sea. And that wall over here, that's a dike right there that keeps the sea out. Because remember, Holland is below sea level, so if the sea is here, Holland is down here, so you need the walls to keep the sea from flooding into Holland. As he walked beside the canal, he noticed how the rain had swollen the waters and how they beat against the side of the dike, and he thought of his father's gates. "I am glad they are so strong," he said to himself. "If they gave way, what would become of us? These pretty fields would be covered with water. Father always calls them the angry waters. I suppose he thinks they are angry at him for keeping them out for so long." As he walked along, he sometimes stopped to pick the pretty blue flowers that grew beside the road, or to listen to the rabbits' soft tread as they rustled through the grass. But oftener he smiled as he thought of his visit to the poor blind man who had so few pleasures and was always so glad to see him. Suddenly he noticed the sun was setting and that it was growing dark. "Mother will be watching for me," he thought, and began to run toward home. So here's Peter, just looking out at the sea. And that's him picking the flowers there, pretty blue flowers, and the nice fields. And here he is, running home. "Gotta get home before dark," Mom said. Just then he heard a noise. It was the sound of trickling water. He stopped and looked down. There was a small hole in the dike in which through a tiny stream was flowing. Any child in Holland is frightened at the thought of a leak in the dike. See, there's the leak right there. There it is. Ah! Danger, danger. Peter understood the danger at once. If the water ran through a little hole, it would soon make a larger one, and the whole country would be flooded. In a moment, he saw what he must do. Throwing away his flowers, he climbed down the side of the dike and thrust his finger into the tiny hole. The flowing of water has stopped. Whew, close one, right? "Oh ho," he said to himself, "the angry waters must stay back now. I can keep them back with my finger. Holland shall not be drowned while I am here." This was all very well at first, but it soon grew dark and cold. The little fellow shouted and screamed. Come here, he called. But no one heard him. No one came to help him. It grew still colder, and his arm ached, and he began to grow stiff and numb. He shouted again, "Will no one come? Mother, mother!" But his mother had looked anxiously along the dike road many times since sunset for her little boy, and now she had closed and locked the cottage door, thinking that Peter was spending the night with his blind friend and that she would scold him in the morning for staying away from home without her permission. Peter tried to whistle, but his teeth chattered with the cold. He thought of his brother and sister in their warm beds and of his dear father and mother. I must not let them be drowned, he thought. I must stay here until someone comes, if I have to stay all night. The moon and stars looked down on the child crouching on a stone on the side of the dike. His head was bent and his eyes were closed, but he was not asleep, for every now and then he rubbed the hand that was holding back the angry sea. I'll stand it somehow, he thought, so he stayed there all night, keeping the water out. Early the next morning, a man going to work thought he heard a groan as he walked along the top of the dike. Looking over the edge, he saw a child clinging to the side of the great wall. So here's Peter. He stopped the flow. See there, put his finger in there. All night he did that. And here he is again, just chilling there all night long in the cold. As he gets colder and colder, his hands are getting numb. His teeth are chattering. And then here's the kindly man on the top of the dike in the morning. See, there he is, looking down and saying, hey, what's going on down there? What are you doing, kid? What's the matter? He called. Are you hurt? I am keeping the water back, Peter yelled. Tell them to come quickly. The alarm was spread. People came running with shovels, and the hole was soon mended. They carried Peter home to his parents, and before long the whole town knew how he had saved their lives that night. To this day, they have never forgotten the brave little hero of Holland. And here's Peter. He's being held up on the shoulders of that guy. He's the hero of the town. He's the hero of the country. Saved the entirety of Holland from being flooded. And so Peter, the little hero of Holland, shows us the importance of perseverance and courage. Even when things are hard, even when we don't know when they're going to end, we have to have courage. Because ultimately, we people of faith, we trust that the Lord is going to take care of us. That God is going to care for us and our families and our loved ones, even when things seem hard. So thank you all for joining me for Storytime with Father Colin as we talk about courage and the little hero of Holland. God bless you all and take care.